All right, Metta World Peace is here. You know him as Ron Artest, but you know him as Metta World Peace as well. He's got a podcast out called Metaphorically Speaking, and the goal of the podcast is inspiring and empowering listeners to pursue their dreams and passions. Had a lot of interesting guests on there, like Mike Tyson, our own Dr. Drew as well, NBA championships, a storied NBA career that goes beyond the court. Good to see you.
Absolutely. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
So maybe we'll just kind of start at the start and we'll work our way toward the present and then maybe into the future as well. Start off, 4 or 5 brothers, sisters, small, living in public housing. Queens, is it?
Yep. He's in Queens.
And was it pretty clear that sports was the way out for you early, or did you have many other interests?
Definitely had other interests. I mean, when you growing up watching TV, we didn't have cable, but we did watch regular TV. TVs don't work all the time, but so when you're growing up, you're watching Full House. You're watching even late night like Seinfeld, or you're watching Cheers or different things like that. So you become, kind of interested in acting, right? You become interested in entertaining. So as a 6-year-old, 8-year-old, you're just like, oh, wow, I really like what I see on TV, right? And then when you go outside, you're playing tag, you're playing with your friends, you're playing catch. You don't really know about basketball and what it can bring. Then when you get older, you get introduced to new sports, baseball, football, basketball, and you're still just playing. You're not thinking about pro at all.
And you grew up with mom, dad. I know your dad was in the service. I think your dad did some amateur boxing as well, Golden Gloves.
Yeah. Back
in the day. Who's at the house? Is mom and dad at the house?
Yeah, my mom and my dad, I grew up with both of them.
And
up until the age of 13, then they kind of separated.
And what was the housing project like?
Housing project is basically, it's not a lot of education in the projects. So, for the most part, I mean, you grow up because it's normal, but then when you get older, you're like, wow, I want to be a scientist, I can't really become a scientist here, on different things like that. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of happy people, but then also you have your bad times when people get stressed, people having bad days. Those bad days can turn into, within a split second, it could change someone's life, to get somebody's life in prison just within a split second. Somebody's here today, gone tomorrow.
Well, yeah, speaking of that, I know you saw somebody get stabbed.
No, I didn't see it. We heard one of our friends. I wasn't there actually, but yeah.
Run through with a table leg, was it?
Yeah, table leg. It was a basketball game, and they were fighting in the game, and then it was a brawl, and then one of the other players took the leg from the table that had the shot clock, and it had the scorebook and the stat sheet and all that stuff. Took that, kind of like a picnic table, I think, and then it went through our player's heart. We were just we knew they were going away to play in the game. Word around the neighborhood was, LIC, the team is going away to go play for a game. And then when we got back, we was like, oh, wow, Lloyd Newton was his name. Lloyd Newton died. He was somebody we look up to. He was somebody we really idolized. And that kind of, when that happened, it was really shocking. And it was like, wow, I play basketball. Wow, that could happen to me. It was like a lot of things was going through your head at that time. And, in the basketball players in the neighborhood changed. And meanwhile, we had tons of good basketball players. We probably had 3 or 4 Division I teams in our neighborhood.
Really? And for you, when did the whole mental health part of your life start to creep in? I mean, it's not something that young people think about much. It's not something they probably talk about in the projects much. But at some point, it became a crusade for you. Was there an event, or did it just kind of start creeping into your life? Just
interested. I was interested in how to help. Being from my neighborhood, I was pretty much, I never changed. I was pretty much the same person from my neighborhood. And even when I made it to the NBA, I went back to my neighborhood. Where some people would make it, they start doing commercials, work at corporate. You know, me, I went the opposite way. I went back to my neighborhood. I was still in the streets with my friends. Like one of my friends would be coming out of jail, you know, after doing 10 years, you know, 15 years. And I'll be like, hey, what's up? Let's go get something to eat, you know, like that type stuff. You know, so with that being said, I was always interested in, I'm going through things because we're the same person. You know, I'm the same person. You from New Orleans, or you from Chicago, or you from Compton, California. Like, we just alike. So for me, I was like, okay, how can you help someone that is, you know, hopeless, stressed, and different things? You know, as I got in the NBA, I was exposed to more, exposed to meditation, exposed to therapy. So I was always interested in how can you, you know, kind of persuade someone to, or help guide someone to find therapy, to find someone who can help them meditate and different things like that. And I started to become interested in it because I was slowly helping myself. So I was like, wow, I wonder if you can help more people.
Was it something that in the NBA they were pushing, discussing? You know, were owners, coaches, I mean, it obviously varies from coach to coach. Some are a little more philosophical than others, but they're saying, hey, this is a mental game, and, you know, we can practice all you want and sweat all you want, but at some point you're going to have to center yourself, and here's a good way to do it. Were there other players doing it, coaches?
I think the NBA always had their pulse on this, because when I was 19, I came into the league with baggage, stress, and depression and different things, right? So the Bulls was on top of it. The Bulls was on top of it more from a psychiatry perspective, not so much psychology. Mm-hmm. And I think that was partially because my dad was on medication, right? So when they was asking me, like, hey, are you all right? Because I was always in practice. I was upset. I had a quick trigger, a real quick trigger. So when you look at what my dad was diagnosed with, they was like, okay, maybe you should do half what your dad is doing, you know? And then, so that was like more of a general diagnosis. And then when I got, you know, fully diagnosed, that's when they started to recommend therapy. And most of it came from, you know, things I've seen and been through, you know, and I had this shell around me that was protective of me, which, you know, at any point in time, if, you know, I felt like you was disrespecting me or anything like that, I was always ready to react. So, you know, with that, from that perspective, I got into it, you know, fairly all. The NBA was definitely on top of it. They actually provided a lot of resources for me when I left Chicago and got to Indiana. You know, it transferred over. Donnie Walsh was very, very supportive. But back then, athletes wasn't coming out as much. So a team is probably not going to say, hey, my player's seeing a psychologist, or my player's seeing a psychiatrist. To keep everything under wraps, right? And that's what I was doing, keeping it under wraps, because you don't want to be out publicly, you know, saying, oh, wow, I'm seeing a psychologist. Oh, I'm seeing a psychiatrist, right? Either or, because it makes you seem kind of weak. And especially back then in 99, you know, and before 99, the media wasn't as sensitive, right, to that. Whereas now you say it is okay.
No, look, a female tennis player decides to drop out of a tournament, and the media just mobilizes behind her, saying, you know, she's a hero. This is a good thing, or a gymnast or whatever. You know, now, yes, it's swung back, you know, pretty hard the other direction now. But obviously, you had the stigma. You have the athlete stigma too. You know, you're not just a citizen. You have the sort of macho athlete thing, and then they also have the stigma in the black community, which is, you probably know more than I do, but I just mean certain communities kind of embrace it more than others. You know, you talk to a Jewish guy, he'll tell you, I just left therapy, I'm on my way to therapy. He'll have a bumper sticker that says he's in therapy. Like, it's a cultural thing. You know, if I worked in Hollywood, you work with a lot of Jewish writers, they're constantly talking about, I got to go to therapy, or my therapist said, you know, they wear it on their sleeve. But the black athlete probably not nearly as much back then, for sure.
I think the reason, and not just in the black community, but also the Asian community too, is a stigma in the Asian community. And so I think, and many other communities also, but I think the main thing, you know, and actually I came out talking about therapy before it was cool, right? So I was just like, I thought it was important to do it. And the main thing is you don't really have the funding to fund therapy, right? So I think some people would see therapists, but I think on top of the stigma is also you don't really have the capital to pay $100 an hour on different things, which is one of the things I'm interested in seeing if we can help solve a little bit.
Yeah, it seems like with a lot of the stuff that's going on, I mean, since COVID, and everyone's kind of figured out that you don't have to go somewhere and wait in a waiting room and run into people you may know or something like that. You know, 'cause some people have a little feeling kind of it's a dentist office kind of thing, which is like, I know it's good for me, but I just don't want to go there and have to deal with this. But I think if it can be done over the computer or the phone or wherever, where you don't have to go out and sort of do that, that is going to help bring it to the masses because, you know, you go to Beverly Hills and there's a therapist on every other corner, but you go into the projects, you're probably not going to find the therapist's office down the street. So in a way, this is going to be real helpful for that. And also, it'll bring the price down because, you know, therapists has to have an office and staff and overhead and waiting room and electricity bills and all that stuff. The therapists can do it from their home office or their den. That'll do it. And, you know, I'm kind of hoping, and maybe it's a COVID thing. My dad's a therapist, so it's always something that I've always kind of thought about and always kind of wondered why it's been stigmatized. People don't avail themselves. There's programs out there, there's stuff, but you have to go kind of find it, you know?
Yeah.
And then also there's the other side of it, which is probably the overprescription of drugs. I mean, they're trying to get kids, you know, I got kids. It's always like, should the kids be on? It's like, don't have them meditate. Go for a walk.
Yeah,
take
you don't
sauna,
need the medicine.
You know? I mean, some people do, but not as many as they're handing out.
I mean, it's very profitable. And, you know, this is kind of controversial, I guess, if you say, you know, that medication is profitable. But you know, I think we got to figure out how to diagnose our children the right way. Like if our child is in class, and let's just say the child don't want to be in class, I want to leave. Well, doesn't mean that child is crazy. The child might be very special. The child might need a breather. The child might want to draw instead of read and do math, you know? And we need those outlets for our children versus saying, no, we're going to put you on medication because we want you to read. You know, we want you to focus on math. We want you to sit in this chair. You know, the kid could be a genius, you know? And instead of embracing that genius, you know, we kind of suppress it. And then that child becomes addicted to the medication, if I'm saying that the right way.
Were you, what were you diagnosed with?
Depression, and anxiety.
I feel like, you know, growing up in certain environments, and maybe you grew up in this environment, it's kind of, a lot of people have PTSD.
Yeah.
A lot of people, you know, we understand the went to war, saw a buddy die, was traumatized. Now that person's having difficulty, you know, integrating. But I feel like so many families, so many neighborhoods, so many worlds, especially if you're hearing gunshots or, you know, your friend was stabbed with a table leg, you know, and killed. Like,
yeah, that was very...
How old were you at the time?
I was 11.
That's super traumatic. Like,
yeah.
And I think a lot of people have like a kind of a low-grade post-traumatic stress disorder from the society that we've created.
It's true.
And then we're asking them to go out and be normal.
Yeah,
you know,
true.
basically just leave this war zone and then integrate and then not, you know, show any signs of this.
Right.
But so many people do.
I mean, it's very true. I mean, so many people have PTSD. So even when you look at the Jewish culture, when you think about like the Holocaust, right, that's traumatic, right? So that's in the back of your mind. If I think about slavery, that's in the back of my mind. If I think about when I walked home and then I saw, you know, one of my friend's brain on the floor in the wintertime, right, frozen, couldn't even move the brains off the floor because it was too cold. That's traumatizing, right? So I think, and then if you look at war, right, that's globally traumatizing, right? Because people generally don't want to see other people get hurt. Right, no matter what the reason is, right? So I think you're right, and we need to think about that. What's taking place? The pandemic has happened, right? People got to get the vaccine. Some people don't want to get the vaccine. They're traumatized because they have the vaccine. Some people are traumatized. They lost their job during the pandemic. So with that being said, we know that in the future there's going to be some people that's stressed, right? So how do we like prepare for all this stuff?
What is your regiment like? I mean, do you meditate on a daily basis? Do you, I got up this morning, I went in the ocean. That's kind of what I do. And then I sat there and I saw a school of dolphins go by, and I just stared at it and I was like, well, I'm pretty centered. Like
Yes.
that's pretty good.
Of course.
Anything with nature is good. But what do you do? Do you have a certain diet? Do you meditate? Do you take cold plunges or sit in a sauna?
Yeah. I think what you did today was great. I think nature's great. I like to look at the stars. You can't see a lot in LA, but that's really soothing to me. Just looking up and, in LA is the same stars, unless it's like a clear night. I used to meditate more. I don't meditate as much. I used to listen to a lot of Tibetan music, singing bowl, sound bathing. I really like that. I like the rain. I really love when it rains. When it rains, I go outside versus stay inside. So it's a couple of things I do that I like. And then obviously if you're in LA and you're in entertainment and you're just getting up every day, that's not very. You're not meditating at all in LA, depending on where you're at in your career.
I went last week and I floated in one of those sensory deprivation tanks. And I realized that, it's not what a lot of people say. You don't really hallucinate and things like that. What you do is you lose total track of time. And you have to kind of think of things to do where you lose track of time. That is kind of seems to me a kind of a foundation for what we're talking about. Could be meditation, it could be wherever you are, but it's a kind of a losing touch with time. And so you go into this tank for an hour, it's completely black. And at some point the lights come back on after an hour and you would have no idea how long you were there for.
Really?
Which is it's
Are you drinking? Are you taking anything in your body?
No, you're just floating in salt water. You're buoyant, and you're just floating, and it's completely
Is it
black.
Scary?
It's not for me. I guess some people might feel claustrophobic about it.
Is it a small tank? Or is it...
No. They kind of have a room.
Okay.
It's kind of a you'd hit your head if you didn't duck on the way in.
And a lot of salt, like heavy, like thick salt.
Well, salt to the point where it keeps you buoyant, so you don't sink. So you just sort of float, and it's completely black. And you start, you have thoughts like, how long have I been in here?
Wow.
But the answer is, I don't know, because you don't have references. Even if you're not looking at a clock, when you go into the DMV and you're waiting,
right,
you can guess what a half hour is versus an hour versus 50 minutes. You got a pretty good idea because you're conscious. You know? But if you can get yourself into a position where you don't really know where time is, that's a real good step toward kind of getting you centered. And like I said, the tank's pretty good. You should definitely try that one out.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to try that out for sure.
They have places all over town. Just go in there and book an hour.
There's a lot. I didn't even know they do that. There's a lot of new things happening. I know people are very into psychedelics now.
Yeah.
I know Tyson talks about it a lot, on his podcast. There's a lot of great things that you can do,
Yeah, well, that then kind of begs the question, because you hear a lot of people microdosing and mushrooms and psilocybin and stuff like that, and they go out and they hang with the shaman in the woods and they throw up all over the place.
Yeah.
But to me, I don't really, turn my nose up at it, but I think, I don't know, ingesting something to get to a place doesn't feel that far off from the pharmaceutical side of it to me, which is you are ingesting something to try to get yourself to a place.
Yeah.
And again, if it works, I'm not uptight about it or anything, but I still go, wouldn't it be better if we could find that place without ingesting anything?
Right.
If there was some version of meditation or something, because it all, it kind of feels like a crash diet, or not a crash diet, but it sort of feels like, Weight Watchers hot fudge cake that's low calorie. That's not really a diet. You know what I mean? You're trying to kind of game the system a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit of a life hack or something. But to me, you still kind of end up in the same place. Like, maybe we can do this with the tank. Maybe we can do this with meditation. Maybe we can do this, with nature.
Yeah, I think so. Some people don't experience nature. I mean, I like things that grow from the earth also, that you can, that's like medicine, or medicinal. But then I think also nature's great. I don't think enough people experience nature.
No, not nearly. I mean, the people that are probably most centered or the calmest or the whateverest are people that either get out in nature a lot or work with their hands. The people that are shaping metal and building cabinets all day, they seem to be completely centered, like all the time. I don't mean gurus. I just mean they don't have bad mood swings. They seem to be engaged. I have this theory about us getting off of the farm and getting out of the shops and getting into this digital cubicle world that I think is sort of wreaking havoc with people's minds.
It is, because when it makes sense, because you're just building things with your mind, and not necessarily, or you're seeing things, or you're looking on Instagram, and basically the phone is so thin. On the other side of that phone is like this table,
right?
It's not real,
right?
With the exception of everybody's on it, and I think when you're building stuff, it probably is satisfying. You're actually building something that someone's going to use when you're gone from here, right? And I can see why that's satisfying. If you're like an artist or a craftsman,
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I do feel like we need to get more people into that world that we look at as kind of a step backwards. Like, oh, that's what our grandparents would do, but now we're digital. Like we're coming up with startup companies. It's fun, apps and stuff.
I know it's fun and scary at the same time.
So you grew up, your family was intact until you were 13.
Yeah.
Your mom worked at a bank?
Yep, my mom worked at a bank.
And your dad was
My dad was like working at Carolla Hospital on Roosevelt Island, in between Queens and Manhattan, feeding patients food. That was mainly what he did. Clean the kitchen, get the food, bring the food to the patients' rooms. Mostly paraplegics.
Could you have gotten out of the projects? I mean, you had two working parents; they were intact. Did people want to get out? Were there thoughts about it?
It's interesting, because our neighborhood, when you go to Queensbridge, even though it's like housing projects and kind of poverty, maybe below the poverty line, but when you go outside on every 6 blocks and you see big lawns, it's actually a really beautiful place. Really beautiful place. The buildings are strong. They built it back in 1910 or something like that. And that structure is still standing. If it's cold outside, you got heat. If you're hungry, the government's probably giving you Medicaid or Medicare, different things like that. So, you're okay. So when you grow up like that, just imagine, it's like being spoiled, but not. You know what I'm saying? You have, but you don't.
Yeah.
Right. And with that being said, it is a beautiful place. Sometimes you don't want to leave. When I went to the NBA and I told my mom, I said, okay, Mom, we're going to move to Chicago. She said, I'm not leaving Queensbridge. My mom didn't leave Queensbridge for 4 years. And then I said, okay, so I'm not leaving Queensbridge either. So then I went back. I actually went to go apply for an apartment back in my hood, back in my neighborhood.
When you were in the NBA?
While I was in the NBA. And then I went back all the time. It's such a beautiful place. I didn't want to leave. And some people probably don't have the chance to leave like I had. And so I could imagine like they're not even thinking about leaving. The people are great, with the exception of the violence. Sometimes that happens. But the people are just great in Queensbridge.
Do you worry, or you tell me, but I always think about, I come from some welfare and some food stamps and a free house, and I have elements of that. I felt like it kind of hobbled my mom. I don't feel like she wanted to work. She didn't have to work. Like stuff was being dropped off. The food was being dropped. All all the stuff that historically you had to go to work for was being provided. Not in a lavish way, like you said, food stamps and things like that, but you had enough. And
Right.
I really feel like it killed her ambition.
True.
And I don't know if you saw that or see that in that environment that you grew up in.
It's true. It's just like, so say like you grow up rich. I tell people this all the time. You grow up rich and your parent says, okay, you want $20,000 or you want $1,000 or whatever, whatever it is. You're going to go work for it. You're going to go clean your room. You're going to go in the big, nice lawn and move the logs. Like, you're going to work for it every time. Mm-hmm. Versus if you grow up poor and I say, okay, I need 50 cents. And my parents say, okay, I feel so bad. We don't have nothing. Here's 50 cents. I didn't do nothing for it. Mm-hmm. So you don't have no reference on, how to work for something. So whether you're rich or poor, you need to work for it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's kind of interesting because you think, well, rich people, they just give their kids a bunch of shit, really.
Not all rich people do that.
No, mostly rich people understand that you got to work and that's how they got rich. Everyone thinks it's daddy's money or something, but most people I know have money. They worked really hard, started a business, whatever. Mm-hmm. So what they do is they synthesize work. They make dumb work for their kids as an exercise. They could hire a maid, maybe they have a maid, maybe they have a nanny, maybe they could do everything, but they go, nope, you're going to have to go do this. Rich people go rake those leaves into one pile and then move the pile to the other side of the lawn. And they have a gardener, but they understand you're going to have to work to get this.
Yeah.
And what I grew up with was just sort of be angry at the government and complain that they didn't give more stuff, but we never really got the exercise in you got to go do something.
I know.
To get this.
I've never worked. Actually, that's not true. I did work. But for the most part, I don't remember me having even a job when I was young. I did pack bags at one point in time because I was trying to make some extra money. I remember that. So I said, okay, I'm just going to go pack bags. And I did that for like maybe 2 weeks.
At a grocery store?
At a grocery store. Mm-hmm. And, you bring the bags to somebody's apartment. Maybe you get 50 cents or $1, But for the most part, we had food and we had an apartment. So, sometimes we didn't take care of the apartment. We didn't really clean all the time because we had it. It wasn't ours.
Yeah,
right?
It's kind of the difference between the way you treat something if you give your kid a car when they turn 16 versus tell them to save up and mow lawns and earn money and you save up some money and I'll pay for half or whatever. The kid takes care of the car because the kid's invested in the car.
Right.
And they've got some skin in the game. And I don't think we really fully understand that as a society. We go, some kids don't have cars, give kids cars, but if you just give it to them, they don't know how to take care of it. They haven't sort of earned their way into the responsibility position of looking after it and maintaining it and that kind of stuff. And, we have to kind of reconcile that because it does create a sort of a lethargy. It's like this is our apartment, this is our food,
this
is
agree.
stuff, and
it's
people
not good.
are dropping it off.
Because I know we're doing a lot of people's doing great things, trying to help the people below the poverty line and different things like that. But it's still handicapping, You gotta, we should make our children work for stuff. We should make, you can also go into your community, go clean up your neighborhood, and we're not like overdoing it, but learn how to work because a lot of people below the poverty line, you have a lot of time, unless you're working a 9 to 5. But some people are not working 9 to 5. So it's things you could be doing in your community to build up your skills. Look in Buffalo or Baltimore, all these abandoned buildings, right? And abandoned houses and abandoned brownstones. Well, okay, let's clean it up, right? Let's figure out how to work, fix it up and different things like that. It's things you can do to build up, your trade, where you can actually do something.
No, I completely agree. My feeling, if I was in charge, I'd be like, all right, I'll give you money if I'm the government, but I need you to go to trade school.
Right.
I need you to go learn how to weld or pipe fit or something.
Draw or something, yeah.
Well, probably not draw, but something. You can draw on your own time. Kyrie Irving, you have any thoughts about his situation, his case?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. You know, I'm one that I didn't want to get the vaccine, but I got the vaccine, right? Because I just didn't want to be home. The reason I didn't want to get the vaccine was because I just didn't want to get it. You know what I'm saying? That's the reason I didn't want to get it. So, but
wait a minute.
Yeah.
I know. Listen, I'm not. My thing is everyone should be able to make their own medical decisions. That's where I'm from. And then the other part is you have to weigh things out. You know, my dad's 90. He should get the vaccine. My son's 15. He doesn't need the vaccine. I can have some nuanced thoughts about it. Or someone who was infected who has natural immunity. They don't need it. Like, we can parse this out a little bit. It can't just be everyone get the vaccine or you can't leave your house.
I know it is like a bit, you know, it's a bit extreme. Like, if you don't, when people say they don't get it, then, like, I feel like I woke up one day and if you said you didn't get the vaccine, that you were getting hammered. Like, I feel like I just woke up one day and that's what happened. And some people's like, whoa. All I did was I just didn't get the vaccine. Like, you know, I feel like if he didn't want to get the vaccine and he can't play, well, everything's done. You can't play. I feel like there was nothing else to talk about. I've seen a lot of people bashing him like he should get him out of here. And I'm like, why so mad? All he did was not get the vaccine and lose $17 million. Like, he lost $17 million or however much. It has nothing to do with you. Yes,
yeah, I know.
Nothing to do with anybody else, and he can't go inside the arena, so he's not putting no one at risk inside that arena.
Right.
You know? So I don't know what the big issue is.
Let me hit a quick sponsor, and then we'll
absolutely
keep on keeping on here. Let me tell you about Podium. Business owners, you know, there aren't enough hours in the day to waste playing phone tag. The list of customers you need to reach doesn't get any shorter, especially when business is good. That's why local businesses everywhere turn to Podium. Podium makes every interaction as easy as sending a text, so everything that makes your business great can get done even faster. Plus, gathering reviews, collecting payments, and even marketing is easy. It's done as easy as pressing send. You won't just free up more time, you'll grow your business. Close deals with customers before the competition even has a chance to call them back. It's Podium, right, Dawson?
Join more than 100,000 businesses that already use Podium to streamline their customer interactions. Get started for free at podium.com/Adam or sign up for a paid Podium account and get a free credit card reader. Restrictions apply. That's podium.com/Adam.
All right, so let's see. We're talking...
Kyrie.
Yeah. So look, it's also interesting that the same people that were applauding people that took a stand or resist, you know, there's a big bumper sticker that said resistance, you know what I mean? Like, the same people that had the bumper sticker resistance on their Prius in Santa Monica are all now going after Kyrie Irving. Right. So, well, isn't that resistance? And here's really what we're down to now. It is their type of a resistance. So their thing is resist, you know, Donald Trump or resist whomever they don't like, but they don't want resistance. They want their resistance, their form, their brand, their idea.
This is very true.
They want free speech, except for they don't want people they disagree with talking. They don't want that kind of free speech.
And this is very scary. You know, it's very, you know, contradicting. You know, as humans, we are contradicting. But, you know, that's why I never voted until last year. The first time I voted. The reason I never voted because I said, I don't want to keep picking sides every 4 years. We vote, we get who we want, we happy. We vote, we don't get who we want, we mad. And the next 4 years, everyone's fighting against each other. You know, every 4 years, we're going to have another big fight. This person's horrible. It's like, how about we just focus on, you know, moving forward? There are lots of bad things that we need to change. And there are some things that's okay. Right, so how about we just try to just focus on moving forward and not get distracted, you know? And, you know, with Kyrie, it's true. At one moment, he was a hero. Then the next moment, he's not, you know, by the same exact people. And which is a reason, like, I don't like the true sides. You know, I just like to move forward.
Yeah, well, look, if you want to get with your physician and make a decision, and that could be therapeutics, everyone went nuts over ivermectin and
Yeah.
hydroxychloroquine. Just that's between whoever and their physician to figure out whether it's a sensible protocol or not. This has nothing to do with me.
Right.
I don't know when so many people infuse themselves into everyone else's business. And it's no way to run a society, by the way.
Some people are really scared. Some people are really scared of the vaccine. And some people are really, and you got to feel for them people, kids, women, men, 12-year-olds, 40-year-olds. Like some people are scared. They just woke up one day and they have to take a vaccine, and if they don't, they can't work. If you do, you can do everything, right? And you still have to wear a mask. I was on the plane the other day, and I had my mask down. They said, I don't want to call it. I'm not going to say the name, or if he's watching, sorry, but I got to tell the story, right? And it was like, pull the mask above your nose,
yeah,
or I might have to do paperwork, and I'm like, are you serious? I had the vaccine. I caught COVID. I got T cells and antibodies.
Right.
Right. So it was kind of frustrating.
Delta flight, perhaps.
I'm not going to say what
got
flight.
hit the hardest. The 8 scariest words you can hear on a flight is on behalf of your Seattle-based flight crew, because the flight crews out of Seattle are fucking Nazis. It's all about where the flight crew's from. If they're out of Houston, they don't give a fuck.
It's so
If
true.
they're out of Seattle, they got to fix you, settle your hash, and fix the world. It's very interesting. So you gotta pick the flight crew that's out of somewhere in Texas or Florida. They don't bother with you. If you hear Seattle-based flight crew, you are screwed. And thoughts about Kobe. You must have some thoughts about him.
Man, Kobe's a great guy, man. I remember that morning. I just moved to Encino, like maybe 6 months before.
Encino's probably 8 miles from where the crash took place, maybe 11 miles. I mean, it's the San Fernando Valley. It's the same direction.
Yep.
It's not too much further down Ventura Boulevard,
Yeah.
at least in the direction of the crash.
Yeah, when I later looked at the YouTube flight path, I was like really hurt. But when I looked at the YouTube flight path, because something told me I did hear a helicopter that morning. And that morning, it was a normal morning. It was very foggy, but nothing I was worried about. I wasn't going out nowhere. And I remember, like, looking outside. It's like, oh wow, it's really foggy today. I remember hearing something, little chopper, and whatever. Then I get a call from someone who I brought to a Laker game to take a picture with Kobe, R.I.P. Kobe, and he said, hey, Kobe passed away. I said, man, stop playing with me. I called him back. I said, man, what are you doing? I don't play these games. Then I called Kevin Garnett, actually. Because I was like, who can I call to, like, 'cause I just can't believe this. And then Kevin, first thing he said was, man, it's true. That's the first thing he said. I'm like, oh my. Then I just start crying and stuff and start reflecting. But it was when you reflect on Kobe, it's still surreal. It's like almost becoming real. I'm still not, because you got to think about it. When Kobe passed away, the pandemic happened right after that. Mm-hmm. Kobe passing away was just as big as the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And then the George Floyd thing happened. And then we went from Kobe one day to the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And we was like literally stopped grieving in mid-grief. Mm-hmm. Right? And then so nobody even had a chance to really sit with this.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't have a full chance to sit with this. It's like you just forgot about it. Oh, wow, we're marching now. Oh, wow, we can't even go outside. Oh, wow, Kobe passed. Oh, my goodness. It's like so much things going on.
Was he, I don't know, maybe compare him to Jordan a little bit in terms of his work ethic, his attitude, his, willingness to do anything to win. Now, sometimes teammates don't like that because, unfortunately, if it's a teammate or a coach or whoever it is, that can rub some people the wrong way because they're on people all the time. They're asking a lot of themselves, but they're asking a lot of other people around them. I ultimately, with some time, people realize, oh, that's excellence. And they always kind of they respect it
Yeah.
with a little distance,
Right.
like you kind of do with that tough coach you had in high school or something.
Right,
You don't
right.
like him at the time, but
Yeah.
you get a little distance. You realize that was good. You needed that. He brought out the best in me. What was your relationship with Kobe like?
It was a lot of respect there. So with Kobe, he was a rival for years. As I was in the East Coast coming up, as being one of the best wing defenders, working our way to the championship, Kobe was on his way to being a Michael Jordan type of player, working his way to winning more championships. So when you meet face to face in the game, it's just like, okay, I'm in my prime and we're just gonna, smash mouth basketball. That's how we're gonna do this. And we did that for years, for 10 years, up until when we played with each other. And I was surprised when the Lakers called, and I was more than happy because I always respect Kobe. He reminded me so much of Michael Jordan. I'm a big fan of Michael Jordan. And I just I get a chance to play with Kobe, who reminds me of Michael Jordan, Phil Jackson, who coached Michael Jordan, Lamar Odom, who reminds me a little bit of Pippen and Tony Kukoc. Like, this is just incredible, right? So it was much respect there.
You were Defensive Player of the Year in '04, I'm reading here.
Yeah.
So you would get Kobe. What would the mindset go in, like if you knew you were going to guard Kobe tonight? Would you set a point? Would you set like a number? Like, I don't want him to go over 28.5 points.
Well, my goal was always to keep people to zero. And so with Kobe, if you look at the stats, overall, he had some big games. He had maybe more, I would say 70% or 60% of the games that we played against each other, he got the best. And maybe 30%, I got the best. Mm-hmm. So I did hold him under 20 a couple times, which is really difficult to do.
Yeah.
LeBron, I think I might have held LeBron under 21, so twice, maybe 3 times. LeBron, he's probably more like an 80% success rate against me.
But you would have a number. Like if you hold him under 20, that's a good day.
All
for
right,
you,
so if I
right?
held Kobe to about 24, that's a good day. And that's a lot of points, but that's a good day.
Right. What about LeBron?
LeBron, I would say like 25, 28. If I could keep LeBron, because the thing about LeBron is he's not only a scorer, he's a great passer. So LeBron's putting everybody in chaos. You know what I'm saying? LeBron, Kobe's going to go at you. LeBron's looking at the other defenders and making his teammates better. So then you got to shift from guarding him to playing off the ball. Then when he gets the ball back, he's so big and so fast, it's hard to stop him when he's going downhill.
Right.
Right. So, keeping him at about 25, I was cool with that, if I can keep him there.
Yeah, it's interesting that you kind of have a number in your head, kind of over. It was a bad
30
night.
is not, 30 ruins my day. 30 ruins my day, and I can't sleep.
Really?
Yeah. I cannot. When you look at all the issues I had in the NBA, it came after a loss.
Was it
Big issues.
Was it tougher to guard LeBron because of his size?
No, they both brought something different. LeBron was big, so that made it a little challenging for me. But I was also a big at small forward. LeBron was about, I'm going to guess and say he was 270.
Wow, yeah.
And I'm
that's
260, 265, big small forwards. And then Kobe's about 220. But then Kobe had so much grit. You're guarding him, you're wasting energy, you're trying to stop him, you're doing everything you can. Fourth quarter, you're tired, you're exhausted, and he's just going.
Yeah.
And it's like, and he's shooting threes. It's not as physical, but he's still scoring the basketball, which is like mentally tiring.
I was watching, I don't know if it was 30 for 30 or something, but the doc Malice in the Palace, I think, popped up. And I haven't watched it. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I saw it.
How was it? Was it accurate?
Yeah, it was great. I liked it because, when you look at the brawl in the Madison in the Palace, the next day I lost all my deals, like literally the next day.
Yeah.
I tried everything I can to avoid that situation.
It was 04. It was
04.
Pacers Pistons, and turned into a giant brouhaha. I mean, you guys can watch it if you want.
Yeah.
You can go online. But it started off, you were fouled hard.
I fouled Ben Wallace.
Oh, you fouled Ben.
I fouled Ben. Ben said it was hard. The referees just called the regular foul, but it wasn't Ben's fault, right? I fouled Ben. Then Ben pushes me, which is like more of a flagrant. It was like a flagrant one, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
The refs didn't. They to this day they still didn't call a flagrant on Ben.
Mm-hmm.
So then normally if I push you in a game, the referees will give you a signal. They'll go tech, and then they'll give you a straight line diagonal out with the finger pointing out.
So, yeah.
In this situation, they just got in between us and they never ejected Ben. So I go to the scorer's table to lay down because I'm like, what are we doing? Are we playing basketball? Like, what are we doing? So I said, I'll just lay down until you refs get this under control. And in 5 minutes, Ben's throwing his towel, and this is nothing against Ben, but he's throwing his towel, throwing his headband, throwing his armband. And I'm just like, we're not about to fight. And so then the fans is getting all crazy, and then that's when the guy threw the beer. So it wasn't Ben's fault. Mm-hmm. It was the fans. I think the referees and the fans' fault. Why that happened?
So the beer hits you, and
Right.
then you go up into the stands to figure out who threw the beer at you.
Yeah, I go up in the stands to figure it out.
Did you or punch somebody who hit you with the beer?
Yeah,
What were the chances you were going to find that guy?
I found him immediately.
You found the guy.
Yeah, so what happened was, this is what happened. So when I was on the scorer's table, I was laying with my head, let's just say, north. Mm-hmm. The guys that hit me was, let's just say they were south to the left, up, right? So when I got hit, my eyes was pointing like in that direction. So once I got hit, I looked up and I seen this guy with his arm up like this, like giving, one of those black power, signs, white guy, right? So fist up in the air, cheering. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, you hit me. Right? So I run up in his direction. And even if he didn't hit me, he was looking in my direction, happy because I got hit. So let's say he was the wrong person. He still was happy I got hit. So anyway, I go up there, and chairs is in the way, so I kind of stumble on him. I didn't throw no punch at him. Then John Green, who actually threw the cup, he skinnied up as I was running, like, oh, this guy's coming up here. Let me act like I'm not involved in this, right? So then I get to the other guy, then John Green comes from behind, pulls me off.
He's a fan.
He's a fan. John Green's a fan of the Pistons, a big fan of the Pistons, by the way, and I know him. But then I get hit.
You didn't know him before this.
No, I didn't know him before this.
Right.
Then I get hit with a cup of beer. Then Steve Jackson punched the guy. And, I get mad because I get hit. So I'm about to hit the guy who hit me with a beer at this point, another beer. But when you fast forward, I can get more into the story if you want, but when you fast forward, the guy who put his fist up bet John Green $50 that he couldn't hit me with a bear because John Green told me that story later after I reached out to John. Right? So both of those guys was in the wrong. I would have never known that if I didn't reach out to John. It was a blessing in disguise because I would have went away thinking that I hit the wrong person. Knowing in my mind I didn't because that guy was cheering, but then 5 years later, I found out the guy bet $50 and, he deserved to get he didn't get hit, but he deserved to get shook. I shook him out his jeans.
And that was, you lost all your sponsors and all your deals and everything because of that one moment.
Yeah, it was life. It was crazy. People don't understand like how crazy it was.
What do you think you could put a number to that one moment in terms
Probably
of
like 50 to 100. Probably about 50 to 100.
dollars?
Million. Yeah. Because you think about it, so... and you know what?
Sorry for laughing.
No, it's okay. I laugh at it all the time. Believe me.
50 to 100 million bucks.
I'll tell you why. So when you look at endorsements, when you look at a player that was top 15 defensive player of the year, third team All NBA at 23 years old.
That's the age you were.
That's the age I was. That's a player that's max out contract, right?
Right.
Third team All NBA, first team All Defense, All Star, commercials, right? That's so now when you look at my contracts, $42 million, a lot of money, I'm not complaining. But you look at my contract, $42 million first contract, second contract, $42 million, right? $80 million total, about 80-something million, about maybe $90 million total I made in the NBA. Now, when you look at what other people were getting at my skill level, I'm not going to say names, but they were getting like $90 million contracts, $100 million contracts.
Yeah.
And I was on a team with T-Mac, Yao Ming, you know, and a go-to guy on that team. With Yao Ming's a Hall of Famer. In my prime, I was averaging 25 on a team with Yao Ming. When you look at that type of talent, that's a $90 million player. So the teams didn't offer me max contracts. I'm not blaming this on the teams, by the way, and I don't want to blame everything, but I'm just saying that incident really affected me tremendously.
Financially, and beyond.
And no corporate deals since.
What do you think? That was the 23-year-old version of yourself. What do you think the more enlightened version of yourself would have done several years later?
I can't see somebody just throwing something in my face and me not just smacking the hell out.
I don't know. I respect that answer.
I don't know if I can I don't know if I can sit there. If somebody let me see if I can think about this honestly. If somebody threw something in my face, I would be pissed.
Right.
During meditation, not meditation, but but I think if I was playing in a game, honestly, if somebody would have hit me again while I was in pros in the NBA, there's no way I'm running in the stands. It costs too much.
It's a financial decision.
It costs too much. Oh, like if I'm at like outside, maybe that's different. But if I'm like in a setting, professional setting, it just costs too much.
Yeah, no, I never, look, you go 50 to 100.
It costs too much.
When you said 50 to 100, I was like, well, it's not 50,000 to 100.
Yeah.
Because that wouldn't make a difference. But then I was like 50 million to 100. And then you go, what? But then, break
about
it.
50 to 100.
Break it down. God
I mean,
damn.
then you look at everything.
And how do you know that guy's name because he sued you or something?
No,
or
no.
Why do you know that actual person up in the stands?
The one who sued us was the one who ran on the court. When he sued us for running on. It was 3 people attacking me on the court, and I didn't know it until I saw it because I was so traumatized by it. I couldn't watch it. I watched the tape. I thought it was one guy. It was 3 people trying to jump me. And the one guy sued us.
The one guy sued.
Yeah.
Well, how did you run down the guy, Green? Who?
So what happened was, I was very depressed for years. Like when I got back the next year in Indiana, I was shook. I was scared to go into arenas. Like not because I'm scared of people. I'll fight anyone. That wasn't the reason. I was just scared because I want to play basketball. I want to be great. And I don't think I can be great at this point because I'm so worried about somebody throwing something at me.
Well, it's post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, you were traumatized.
I was so scared to go to Detroit in the Indiana jersey.
So
so
how did you find this guy?
All right, so after that, then I got traded to Sacramento. I'm about 273 pounds at this time when I got traded to Sac. Super depressed, right? So then I told Rick Adelman when I got to Sacramento, I say, Rick, I don't think I'm going to be able to play. I don't want to make this a big story, but if you could do anything for me, please find a way to keep me on the bench because I kind of want to leave the NBA. And meanwhile, 2 years before that, I was trying to leave the NBA. So I said this, and Rick Adelman, who pumped life back into my career, he said, Ron, this team is going to go as far as you take us. And then I'm like, Rick, I'm 273 pounds. And we was in last place in the West in Sacramento. And I said, okay, we're going to go to the playoffs. And everybody laughed. I come out in the media. I said, we're going to the playoffs. And everybody laughed. We go to the playoffs. Then at 2 years past after that, I'm still coming out of depression a little bit. I said, you know what? I need to reach out to this guy because this guy's on my mind. So I go on Twitter. I put up a picture. I said, if anybody can find me.
What year is this?
This is 2007. 2007. So I said, if anybody can find me, the first tweet was, if anybody can find this picture of John Green, I'll take you to lunch. And then about 10 minutes passed, and I took down the tweet, and I said, I don't want anybody to think I'm trying to fight John Green.
Right.
So I take it down. I said, how am I going to do this? I just put the picture. I said, if anybody can find me this guy, I'll take you to lunch. Within like 30 minutes, this guy from Chicago said, I know who this is. It's John Green. Here's his number. So then I took down the tweet. I called the number, and back in the days it says, this number is no longer in service, but if you want the new number, they give you the number.
Right.
Even though I don't want nobody to have my number, they still give you the new number. So I called that number, and his wife picks up, and she says, hello. I said, hey, this is Ron Artest. I want to speak to John Green. And she says, stop effing around.
Right.
Get off my phone. I said, no, I'm serious. This is Ron Artest. I want to talk to John because I know we've been through a lot, but I think that we can go and we can put out a good message from what we've been through and, and hashing out our differences, and showing the world that, if you have drama, you could get through it. And mainly...
Now, is this the guy with the fist up or the guy who hit you with the beer?
The guy who actually hit me with the beer.
Right.
This is the guy who actually hit me. And the mainly was because in our neighborhoods, like, people be having drama. And when you have drama with someone, people don't really understand, like, okay, we had drama today. I don't need to shoot you. I don't need to kill you. So that was like something I wanted to do. So anyway, she says, John, Ron's on the phone, right? So this is the funniest thing ever. So he comes to the phone, and I hear him in the background. Ron who? She says, Ron Artest. He answers, he picks up the phone and says, hey, Ron, what's up?
Wow.
Ain't that crazy?
And it'd been 5 years or 4 years?
I don't know this guy.
Right.
He just picked it up like he knew me. And I was like, this guy is really crazy. And the first thing he said was, hey, man, I want to apologize. You know what I'm saying? First thing he said. That's why people's like, why you reach out to him? I respect that guy.
So he apologizes immediately.
He apologized. The first thing he did, man, I want to apologize. Then he told me the story. He said, hey, by the way, the story, I was a little drunk, I was a little drunk and we was having a good time. He one of these delusional fan that, I get it. You probably, you think of a player in a different light because we're all from all walks of America. Some people just don't respect the players because they just don't. It's not right, but I fucking get it, And he told me, hey, the guy made a bet. The guy made a bet, $50. I couldn't hit you, and I just couldn't pass up on the bet, man. That's what he said.
Was he a school teacher or a construction worker?
He was he still is a construction worker, man. He's a construction,
really?
not construction worker. He like build homes and stuff.
Developer,
but he also was in AA classes at that time, AA meetings. You know what I mean? He was going through his own stuff. He got divorced.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You never know what someone is going through. You know what I'm saying? You never know what someone is going
No, but it is. Did you ever physically meet him?
We talk sometimes. We text back and forth sometimes. Yeah, it's kind of weird, right?
But I think you found it pretty healing, I would say. I mean, you got some...
You should have him on your show. I think he's a character. He's a character.
Well, I'm not a big fan of closure, but it seems like you got some closure on this and were able to perform after that.
Yeah, it was there.
Or at least helped you toward performing.
Yeah, it was a rough time for me. That people could say black eye in NBA. That was I don't know what they talking about, but for me, that was life changing for legacy. That was legacy changing for me.
Yeah, it's sadly, circling back to Kobe, just an instant, just nothing. Just 1 minute you're laying down, goofing around or screwing around or clowning around or something. The next minute you're out $70 million, or the helicopter hits the side of the mountain. Like, things change fast. Man.
For sure.
All right. Well, let me give the pod a plug, metaphorically speaking, and it's empowering the listeners to pursue their dreams and passions. Like I said, Tyson's on it, Dr. Drew's on it. It's a lot of range. Shoot him a tweet at MetaWorld37. Let me hit LifeLock. Tech support scams trick you into believing something is wrong. Then they steal your personal information, tap your bank account, or install dangerous software on your device. It's important to understand how cybercrime and identity theft are affecting our lives. Every day we put our info at risk on the internet. In an instant, cyber criminals could harm your finances and your credit. Good thing there's LifeLock. LifeLock helps detect a wide range of identity threats like your social security number for sale on the dark web. If they detect your information, they will send you an alert. So protect yourself with LifeLock. Right, Dawson?
No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but you can keep what's yours with LifeLock Identity Theft Protection. Join now and save up to 25% off your first year with promo code ADAM. Call 1-800-LifeLock or head to lifelock.com and use promo code ADAM for 25% off.
All right, I'm going to be in Philly or outside of Philly at the Keswick Theater. That'll be November 6th. That's coming up in a couple days, right? It'll be this Saturday. So come on out tomorrow night. There you go. Come on out and say hi. And Dawson, the Smoking Kills, that'll be tonight. Yeah, that'll be in Austin. No cover charge, by the way, at WTF Ice House. And like I said, Metta World Peace. Metaphorically Speaking is the name of his podcast. I'd love to be a guest at some point on the show.
Absolutely. That'd be great.
An honor. And thank you for
me.
Joining me. And until next time, this is Adam Carolla for Metta World Peace and Ball Bryan and Gina Grad saying mahalo.
You know of people that are into that?
This is by the way, this is a bogus call because every Loveline bogus call we ever got was, is it normal to put a bowling pin in my asshole? Yes. As a matter of fact, I got my my parents' bowling pins. Yeah, that's right.
We have them mounted on our chairs.
Yeah.